everybody! My name is Sarah Simone, and this is my first video in the Beginner's Guide to Bass series. So for starters, these lessons are designed for people who are picking up the bass for the first time or for people who've been trying to learn the bass but need a push in the right direction. Later on, I'll be making videos for more intermediate and advanced players, but for now, I hope these videos help to make you become more comfortable with the instrument in general. So let's get started. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to hold the bass sitting or standing, how to play using the German bow, and basic left hand form. So the first step in learning to play standing up is adjusting the end pin so that way your bass is the right height for you. Your bass should be high enough so that way this part of your bass is at shoulder height, and so that way it can fit easily into your hip in a way where you barely have to touch it in order to keep it balanced. As you can see, bass should be to the side of you as opposed to in front of you like a cello player, and your feet should be shoulder width apart, and you should stand relatively tall with good posture so you don't have back problems later down the road. And that is how you hold a bass while standing. So for sitting, it's a little different. You'll want one foot firmly planted on the ground, while the other leg rests on the back of the bass to support it. So for sitting, your bass shouldn't have any movement whatsoever because it should be resting on your leg. And you still want to stand tall and keep good posture even though you're sitting down. I always prefer to play sitting down, but I highly recommend learning to play standing up so that way you at least have the option. So for those of you who don't know, there's two bows in the bass world. The first one, the French bow, looks a lot like the bows for every other string instrument, and yeah, I'm not going to even try to attempt to show bow hold for that because I really don't know what I'm doing. But I use the German bow, which as you can see has a much wider end. And so what you want to do for when you hold the German bow is you want to relax your hand completely so that it's almost in a natural state, you know, the way you'd have it by your side. And just completely relax it. Then you're going to hold that bow vertically, and you're basically just going to slide your hand in there in that natural position, like so. And once you have it in there, you just want to loosely start to hold it so that way all these fingers are basically just there for support while your pinky and your thumb do all the work as far as holding the bow in place. Now when you bring it up, most of the weight will be on the bass itself, but that's going to be your basic position. Your thumb is going to be nicely tucked under there, just barely pressing it, so that way you have control there. And your thumb is going to be on top, kind of making a bit of a circular type, kind of making a circle with your pointer finger there. And yeah, you're just going to hold it like that. You really want to make sure that your hand is nice and loose. You don't have any tension because that's going to affect your bass playing. And from there, you just put the weight on the bass and you start playing. Now when you're playing, you want to make sure that you keep the bow as straight as possible and parallel to the bridge. And you want to make sure, once again, that you're playing with little to no tension whatsoever, so that way you can get a nice rich sound when you play. And when you play, you want to make sure that the weight is coming from your arm and from your upper body rather than your fingers or your wrists, because that'll make your playing sound tight. And then you just make long, even bow strokes starting out so that way you can get a good sound. So to show you how to play with good left hand form, I'm going to introduce the G major scale so that way we can work on using good form on the fingerings. To play the G major scale, use these fingerings. 2 for G, open A, 1 for B, 2 for C, open D, 1 for E, F sharp, and open for G. Once you have those fingerings down, you'll want to work on spacing and curvature of your fingers. Bass is a very large instrument, and accordingly, your fingers have to be very far apart in order to play in tune, especially on this part of the bass. When you play that first G, make sure you have about 1.5 inches in between your first finger, which should be on the F sharp, and your second finger, which should be on the G. You want to practice having that space in between your fingers, even though you won't necessarily have to play the F sharp before it. Because if you start practicing with your fingers close together, because you don't have to have them far apart in order to sound good, you won't be able to play certain parts in the future. If you have a good hand form with spread out fingers, with about 1 inch to 1/2 inch in between your fingers, you'll be able to play all these scales easily and without having to do a whole lot of shifting. So go ahead and play that G major scale again and really work on playing in tune with those fingers spread apart and with having those fingers curved so you practice good form. And if you're having troubles with playing in tune at first, no worries. We've all been there and we're all still working on improving our intonation. But if you need a little extra help, I've linked a few good tuning apps down below, along with a PDF of the G major scale and a few other extra tips. That's all I have for today. I hope you liked this video. My next lesson will be working on German bow technique, so stay tuned. As always, if you have any questions or need help, here's how to reach me, and I'm currently available to give online lessons. Thanks again, and remember to like and subscribe.